All right, we're going to call to order the September 11th, 2017 Royal Oak City Commission meeting to order. We're going to start with an invocation given by Mayor Pro Tem Douglas, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
As terrified people ran from the World Trade Center 16 years ago today, hundreds of first responders rushed in. Some gave their lives that day. Others who survived have had their lives shortened by the chemicals in the air they breathed then and in the days that followed. We hope that the most dangerous thing Royal Oaks police and firefighters have to do is issue traffic tickets and rescue kittens from trees. But never doubt that they are fully trained to respond to any emergency and willing to make the ultimate sacrifice to keep the people of our city safe. Let us give our respect and thanks to them as we remember and pay tribute to those who served and died on September 11th, 2001. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone tonight. As you may see, a number of us are wearing jeans here today. We're doing that in support of a casual week that our staff and our employees put together with contributions made to the Red Cross to support the victims of both Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma. And so we elected as this body to participate in that as well. So please don't be too discouraged or feel that we take the job too casually, but we are wearing jeans, and that's the reason why. So up next on the agenda, we have item 4 and 5. We're going to give a couple proclamations. We're going to start with Andrea Makar. How are you doing, Andrea?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you. All right. Can everyone hear me? All right. So this is a proclamation honoring Andrea for the Meininger Park Patronicity Project. Whereas communities endure and thrive when citizens are fully engaged in working toward common goals and making the quality of life better for themselves, their families, and their fellow residents by their words and deeds. And whereas Andrea Makar saw the need to have more trees in her neighborhood park, Meininger Park, and whereas Andrea decided to commit her time and leadership talents to acquiring those trees in Meininger Park, and whereas Andrea implemented Patronicity Project to raise funds to purchase trees, and whereas the Patronicity Project was so successful due to Andrea's dedication and hard work that she surpassed the fundraising goals, teamed with Real Leaf Michigan, and purchased enough trees for both Meininger and Fernwood parks. And whereas Andrea did not stop raising funds and purchasing trees, she organized community members to join her in planting trees. And whereas Meininger and Fernwood parks will provide a beautiful green canopy for generations of Royal Oak residents and visitors to parks because one person decided to make a difference. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Mayor Fournier, and the members of the Royal Oak City Commission are pleased to honor Andrea Makar for her Meininger Park Patronicity Project. On behalf of the City of Royal Oak residents and visitors to our parks, we extend gratitude to Andrea for her volunteerism and for making a difference in our community. Thank you so much. Remarkable work. Yes, absolutely.
I did not do this alone. It took got a lot of help along the way. So I did want to just say thank you to Don Johnson and to Charlotte Douglas for their help in actually organizing the project. To Judy David, she was amazing in helping me promote the project, both the fundraising portion and the getting volunteers to help in the tree planting. And then to Greg Rassel and the Parks and Recs department, because they were awesome to work with. They did a fantastic job helping to get the trees unloaded and the holes dug and the water and the mulch the other day of the planting. So they were great. So without them, I wouldn't be able to do this. And then in addition, of course, Relief Michigan that helped so much in organizing the planting. So again, it was a team effort, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great job. Thanks for getting it started and kicking it off so everyone could partake.
Go by the park if you haven't. They're great. They have 18 new trees in them.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy. We have Special Agent John Bondra from the Canadian National Rail Police. We're going to read a proclamation here. designating September 24th to the 30th of this year as National Rail Safety Week. Whereas 2025 rail grade crossing collisions resulted in 798 personal injuries and were responsible for 265 fatalities in the United States in 2016. And whereas 994 trespassing incidents have occurred in the United States, resulting in 483 pedestrians being injured and 511 killed while trespassing on the railroad property rights of way during 2016. Whereas Michigan ranked in the top 10 nationally for highway rail crossing incidents in 2016. Whereas educating and informing the public about rail safety, reminding the public that railroad rights of way and private property, enhancing public awareness of dangers associated with highway rail grade crossings, ensuring pedestrians and motorists are looking and listening while near railways, and obeying established traffic laws will reduce the number of injuries and fatalities. And whereas the International Association of Chiefs of Police, National Operation Lifesaver, United States Department of Transportation, and all local, county, state, and railroad law enforcement officers, first responders, and railroad corporations commit to partnering together in an effort to educate at a national level all aspects of railroad safety, to enforce applicable laws in support of National Rail Safety Week. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Mayor Fournier, and the members of the Royal Oak City Commission hereby designate September 24th through the 30th, 2017 as National Rail Safety Week in the city of Royal Oak, and call upon our citizens, businesses, and schools to recognize the importance and participate in rail safety education. Sir, we appreciate you taking this up and for your efforts keeping us safe in the community and the surrounding railroads. We have a lot of railroad crossings here in Royal Oak. We have a lot of pedestrian traffic, and this is ever more important in our community. So I'd like to thank the CN Railroad, and I'd like to thank your efforts, John, for everything. And I know you have a few words to say.
Just a couple. I can say right now, 1 in every 3 hours in the United States, there's a train versus incident somewhere. And the number has been drastically reduced through education initiatives, such as this, getting the word out about railroad safety. In the coming weeks, I'm hoping by Thursday, if weather permitting, start looking through the downtown area of Royal Oak. There will be 2 foot by 2 foot stickers, decals, placed on the sidewalk to remind people that are walking, they see tracks, think train. So a subtle reminder to know that the trains are out there, obey the traffic laws, the signals are there for your safety, and us are working collaboratively with you guys to keep your community safe. But I do want to thank you guys for the proclamation and your support.
And thank you for helping us get the word out, and I think this is a great opportunity to get the awareness that you just spoke of, Special Agent Bonder. Thank you so much. Okay, that brings us to item number 6. Can anyone guess what this item is? Presentation of Police Department Golf Fundraising Check to the Royal Oak Animal Shelter. Chief?
Yes, Mayor, City Commission, Dan and Tony could come on up here. As you know, the Police Department hosts an annual charity golf outing. Every year, we partner with Dan and Tony Yesbeck of Fifth Avenue to ensure that our outing is the best outing of the year. I think we hit a home run on that front. It was a great outing this year. The weather was perfect. Everyone had a great time. We have a check to present today to the Royal Oak Animal Shelter, which is the beneficiary of this year's outing. I'm pleased to announce that we raised $29,360.33. Volunteers of our animal shelter committee, and maybe if Tony and Dan want to say something, and then we'll let you ladies speak, okay?
Just very briefly, it's a privilege to be able to work with Chief O'Donohue and the Royal Oak Police Department to come together with the community and the volunteers to do something great for such a worthy cause. So we're very proud to be a part of it here in the city of Royal Oak.
Awesome. Ladies, do you want to say something?
Well, I'd like to thank all the police officers and the guests at the golf tournament. It was a wonderful golf tournament. And I'd like to thank all the D.C. Riley and all the other volunteers that helped at the golf tournament to raise this money. It's going to be appreciated because we need the money for the medical fund, as well as increasing our microchipping project at the shelter. So I thank you. I have with us today Emmy Wicke, who is on the committee, and Liz Rivard, who is the vice president. I'm the chair. It's a nice big check. So I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the public comment portion of our agenda tonight, and we'll go over the rules real quick. Again, the City Commission values and relies upon the input of our fellow citizens to make decisions. Now is the time set aside for the public to address the City Commission on city-related issues, both on the agenda and not. I ask that your comments be directed to the City Commission as a whole and not to individual commissioners. Public comment is the only time tonight to address the City Commission on agenda items, unless you are here for a scheduled public hearing. There's one public hearing of the assessment regarding the special assessment for the paving of Delaware. You can make public comment at that time, so if you're here to speak on that issue, when we get to it in the agenda, you'll have your opportunity to speak then on that issue. Anything else on the agenda or off the agenda, you can speak at this point. If you wish to speak tonight, please wait until recognized by me, the mayor, then come up to the podium. For the record, you'll have to state your name and address. Please be mindful that the City Commission wants to hear from everyone who wishes to speak tonight, so we limit comments to 5 minutes or less. There's a timer at the podium to help keep track of your allotted time. If you do not wish to speak tonight, please don't hesitate to email or call the City Commission with your comments at any time. Please note that the City Commission will not respond directly to questions during public comment. However, we are taking notes and will address questions when the agenda item is discussed or refer to the proper city department if the matter is not scheduled on the agenda tonight. And I can assure you, our city manager over here, he's always typing. I peer over just to make sure he's taking really detailed notes and scheduling follow-up on a lot of the things that are brought to our attention. So with that, who's first tonight? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Judy Bateman. I'm with the League of Women Voters, Oakland area. I live at 10494 Talbot in Huntington Woods. We're at the bottom of the agenda, the last thing. So I have to leave. I didn't think it would be that late. Is there any way that I could be moved up, or this issue could be moved up in the agenda?
We'll talk about it when we get to the approval of the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms.
Based
Bateman.
on this agenda, you're about 10 minutes from.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here tonight. Good evening, on and all. Joel Hirshhorn, 4509 Hampton Boulevard, 48073. Sorry for your luck on casual. It's casual day every day at my office. So, start with this evening with a couple of comments that are just kind of random and levity. It's a shame you got the blinds closed. It's a great sunset tonight on downtown on all 67 and 073. The sun rises and sets all the same in this town. When you repeat the word downtown, I wish we keep that thought in your minds. Also for levity, I do think it's important that we laugh at ourselves because we all take ourselves a bit too seriously here and elsewhere. So I'm going to quote to you one of my favorite quotes on politics, and it comes from Groucho Marx. Politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedies. Then I would think of you to look for inspiration. It's a strange choice to look for inspiration, but I would consider General George Patton, who said it in the rooms with his commanders at the Battle of the Bulge. If everybody's thinking alike, somebody's not thinking. It would be nice to see a little devil's advocacy once in a while. It's been a while since I've been here for that. I apologize. This is actually
a very important segment of my life, watching your meetings, participating in public comment. I haven't been here since building codes, and probably don't remember that. For that, I'm happy for you. I've been dealing with more important issues, which was my father succumbing to his 10th stroke this year. So you forgive me when I find my father more important than you. But I will share that my father and I got to share some meetings. So while we cite our children and we cite our spouses and our other family members, my father actually had words for you. Those will come in a later date. Bear in mind, my father was a JFK Democrat. He had some very interesting and poignant observations, but that's for another day. Sitting with my father and with my better half, I've amassed over 30 pages of commentary, which, when you go to 5-minute sessions, I can only tell you you've been spared a great deal. I enjoy speaking at these, and I'm hoping that the 5-minute segment stays forever. This is a vital part of our community and part of our democracy. It doesn't seem it's counted for much of late. It should. Being mindful that if it's shortened or eliminated, it has the ability to backfire on you. Now, there's been a lot going on in the city. Tonight, I'm going to cast aside the bogey, the park, the sidewalks, the farmer's market, everything. It's all going in the soaker bin. By the way, best move you guys have ever done. Till now, I've loved this city. Simply, not for the reasons everybody else may love this city. I love it because, to be honest, it wasn't so much special as it was, in my mind, simply an honest city, a diverse, and even quaint. It didn't have to brag. It didn't have to invent itself. It was itself by default. It didn't have to manufacture itself. Today, I'm ashamed of the city. And I really, for the reasons Ms. Bateman is here, I'm ashamed. The city should have called. Every other city in Oakland County called the League of Women Voters. This city did not. Somewhere along the line, somebody dropped the ball. I don't care who did it. I don't care who's going to fall on the sword for it. This sends to me that my information to me, I'm not important, and no other voter in Royal Oak is important. I can't believe you would stand behind such a statement, but that's the message you're sending. So I'm telling you right now, the buck stops here. I don't know where the problem was. Fix it. From here on out, this city, if it's leadership-based, should be the first one to call the League of Women Voters. Mrs. Wally Anderson, I felt, was humiliated last week. I was ashamed to witness that. I would expect and hope that an apology is given forth to Ms. Anderson. It would show me character and spine. I won't say anything about holding my breath. Tonight, move it up. Do it without genuine pontification, grandstanding, which I'm doing now. Do it because the city matters, not your political party, not your power. The city matters. You have the left, you have the right, which is how everybody seems to identify themselves these days. What's in the middle of this right now? Me. And there's a whole lot of me in Royal Oak. When you turn rights into privileges, you run the risk of turning privileges into allocated rights. We are the greater good. I expect you to take care of it, and I thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Good evening. My name's Eileen Orlansky, and I live at 1851 Torquay Avenue in Royal Oak on the north end of Royal Oak. Royal Oak, Clawson, sometimes I don't know what city I'm in because it's all together there. But I have a couple things I just wanted to talk about tonight. And the first one is about transit in Royal Oak. I was really disappointed when the initiative on the ballot didn't go through, because I was looking forward to taking a bus maybe downtown Detroit to see a game or two, or go to the theater, but that didn't pass. So I thought maybe we could have some type of transit system here in Royal Oak so we could get around Royal Oak easier than driving every time and having all. I'm concerned about the environment, and if we all take cars, we don't help the environment that much. So some of the things that I would like to do if I could take a bus would be go to a movie, doctor's appointments, shopping, theater, and maybe even happy hour. not having to worry about getting home. So the new generation, I know you're looking at who's moving into Royal Oak, and what I've heard that the younger generation would like to live in an area that they don't have to have a car. They can just, walk and go where they want. Well, and I know there's Uber, I think that's the right way to pronounce it, and Lyft, and available, but, it can be kind of costly. So I'm talking basically about seniors, and that maybe there would be some type of transportation. I know there's some senior transportation available, which is not promoted that much, but I would like to be able to take a bus into Royal Oak and shop and spend some time and get on a bus and go back. So it's something that I would hope that you would think about looking forward to the future as far as some type of transit system within Royal Oak. We can't depend on the whole state, so let's just work on Royal Oak. That's number one. The second item is housing for seniors. There's a lot of building, man, going on in Royal Oak, and I see a lot of businesses, a lot of apartments, but I haven't seen anything really for seniors, 15 over. So I was wondering if possibly there is any thought, or maybe the commission could give some thought on housing. The seniors do want to stay here, and we do like nice places, and we like apartments. I have had homes, I have had condos, now I'm ready for an apartment, so I can just call someone to fix everything for me, So if you could consider housing and you could consider transit, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene. I see a hand back here. Yes. Last week it was an umbrella.
Umbrella, phone. Here we go. What do you guys want next time? I'll bring something really cool.
Cookies.
Pizza?
Cookies.
I didn't make enough copies for everybody, so I have to share.
My name's Patrick McGee. I live at 4524 Elmhurst Avenue. I'm here to talk to you about two issues. One that I've taken up interest in and passion I'm following is the Normandy Oaks golf course, both the housing development and the park. And another one is some personal issues that are going on at my property with the sidewalk in the city engineer's office. The first topic, I'm going to go in order of the slides here. I've noticed as they're doing the construction, and right now they're putting in the piping for the a lot of the staging and work is being done both on the city property and the PUD property lines of the Normandy Oaks development. I was just curious when I was looking through the documentation available online, I didn't see anywhere where the PUD gave approval to the Normandy Oaks, the contractor, to use the city property to stage their equipment and put their storage bins and stuff as such. So just wanted to be able to know if that's somewhere available or not, looking for your guys' help. The second item, second page, I'm more concerned about is contacting the city of Royal Oak, the engineering department. Haven't been able to get very far, but I wanted to point out the disposal of the hazardous waste going on there. August 4th, you can note the drums of the 5-gallon buckets of motor oil, some full, some not full, but leaking onto the ground. Then again on September 4th, both motor oil and the PVC solvent cans just dumped on the city side. I don't think that's appropriate. And then again on the 8th, after me calling the city, the engineering department. I'm not really happy with the engineering department. They're very tough to get a hold of. And then lastly, this is part on the agenda later on, is the Norfolk WROK, I don't pronounce that right, I'm sorry. development of the park. One of the things I wanted to point out was as they're looking to develop the park here, I was in touch with the code enforcement and was transferred to Greg Rassel. One of the issues I ran into is they said the park had no address and the development had no address, so the code enforcement couldn't be done. And then that's when I was directed to Greg Rassel. And I had called issues about the trees being removed at Normandy Oaks. And one of the issues I wanted to bring up here was the part in red that I have highlighted on my third slide here. Is that going to be considered the Normandy Oaks Park part, or is that part of the Robinson Brothers Park? And then just the picture so you guys can get an idea of what it looks like now versus what was on the drawing that they submitted to you guys. My main concern with this is the tree removal. I was told that only 5 trees were removed. I don't believe that is accurate based on the pictures and the documentation that's available both in this drawing and on Google Earth. I didn't have the Google Earth, ran out of time to pull this together for you guys. So those are just some things I wanted to bring to your attention as you guys are going through and looking at the some of the Normandy Oaks Task Force stuff tonight and other things. Also, if you're looking for volunteers to help on that, I will gladly put my name into the hat to do that. The last item I got to be quick about here. So item 1 on page 4, I've already gone through with that, and I've actually had the help of councilmen, which is what brings me here. I've had the help of you guys to get some of these things figured out because the city engineering department has been no help. Sam was at resurfacing that has been done at my property. If I go to slide, I guess it'd be slide 6 in the presentation here. 2, I called city of engineering department, asked, are you guys going to be impacting my property? I am told no. I really don't think the city engineers department understands the word impact, honestly. That's just being facetious, but it seems like that, because I'll wake up to May 31st, I can't leave my driveway because I've got construction equipment. June 2nd, I've got massive trucks sitting out my driveway. June 16th, excuse me, I got construction equipment. And not only is it the inconvenience, but the environmental mess they're leaving. They're leaving a mess in the streets, they're leaving oil and fluids on my driveway and on the street. And then lastly, I'm trying to be quick here. As part of this, and I've been working with the city engineers because, once again, I'm not going to be impacted, they're driving on my property. They're cracking my sidewalks. In fact, they're cracking the new sidewalks that you guys just installed on my street, which was fantastic. Trying to work with Gorski Construction, not helpful, but I will say the service rep, Rick, very helpful. He's doing a really good job. City of Royal Oak Engineering, not so much. And then lastly, called very recently about the grass being repaired from the damage. They said the grass was already repaired, but talking to the city, my work is not done. So I don't know, if my work's not done, how can the grass be repaired already? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. Thank you for illustrating it with a comprehensive PowerPoint. I'm not being sarcastic when I say that. It makes it a lot easier to understand what's going on.
I do my best. I'm a detail guy.
Thank you. Mr. Rapinski.
Phone. Mike Rapinski, 3152 Parker, Royal Oak. I'm here to talk to 2 items on the agenda that are near and dear to me. As you all know, I am chair of the Normandy Oaks Task Force, and I also sit on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Excuse me, Parks and Rec and Senior Citizen Advisory Board. First of all, on the consent agenda tonight, you have the contract for WROK and Frous. I am encouraging you all to approve that as written, to move forward and get this, the firm that we've selected to do the work for Normandy Oaks, get them going, and to approve that as written. I know there's some concern about public engagement. We've, I think as a committee, as a Normandy Oaks Task Force, done our due diligence with the firms that we were interviewing, and especially with WROK and Frous, and I am certainly satisfied that they have that as one of their utmost priorities. They are prepared to initiate a large-scale public comment, public engagement session to present some conceptual ideas that they have, and then follow it up with an additional public engagement concept public engagement session to engage our citizens, our residents on the ideas, suggestions of what we should do in the park. I will also remind you that with the Parks and Rec Department, Parks and Rec Advisory Board, we spent many, many months putting together a Parks and Rec master plan about a year ago. There's a lot of detail in there. As part of that process, there was extensive public engagement. There was extensive surveys done. Judy Davids and her staff did a great job of soliciting input from our citizens on what they felt were included in, needed to be in our parks, what needed to be improved, what we didn't have that they wanted. All of that is currently in the master plan. Nowak and Frous has indicated they will use that as one of their key elements in putting together their conceptual drawings as well as their ideas for the park to present for more public engagement. We will have that. And then also in the contract is the flexibility to do additional public engagement if we need it, if we determine it's necessary, and we should be able to accomplish what we do. We have been transparent throughout this whole process. We have been available to the citizens at the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, at the Normandy Oaks Task Force meetings. We've heard from many, many residents on what they want and what their concerns are. I think that will continue to be the case. So I encourage you to approve that as it is written. The second thing is the Normandy Oaks Task Force itself, number 11 on your agenda, and the document that Mr. Rassel submitted to form I believe it's a parallel. I'm not sure I understand the whole concept, what we're doing here, but the downtown park would have a parallel task force that would include the current members of the Normandy Oaks Task Force, of which I am chair. I think it's a great idea. I think that we should move forward with that task force as well, with a member of the DDA, as it is suggested, and to have at least one other member of our community involved in that task force as well. I'm just not clear on how we're going to manage those two groups. Are they going to run simultaneously? Are we going to have separate meetings, conjoined meetings? I would like to get some more information from somebody on how we're going to do that. But I think it is a good idea to have a separate task force for the city park. I encourage you to approve that resolution as well, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rapinski. Got your phone? All right. Mr. Wolf, I think you've had your hand up for a while. I can't see you. I just know your hand by now.
I understand. I would think you would. Ron Wolf, 333 North Troy Street. First of all, regarding Mr. Rapinski, my biggest fear is every time I turn on the computer or listen to the news or read a paper, I see that dang picture of an amphitheater and a lawn, and it's always in the Cranes or the Tribune or whatever, and this is what is portrayed as a future downtown park for the city. And also, Mr. Lineweber, who works for Mr. Bogie, says there will be a place for concerts. In other words, insinuating that possibly this will be the design, which I am heartily against, and I would love to be on one of these boards. Now, first of all, how about engaging Nowak and Frous on the farmers market solutions? They're fair, they're impartial, and very effective. I think you could save a lot of time and trouble. Another thing, personally, I've been accused of not having facts. I know this much. Under this present charter that absolves this commission from answering a direct question, true facts can never be known. And the continuation of your mayor acting under advice of a city manager in moving meetings and agendas for their convenience and strategy to the last minute, and not permitting groups to speak more than 5 minutes, other towns permit them 10 minutes, it's no wonder people distrust and their suspicion is justified. I'm only one person, but I've observed other cities and townships at their best and their worst. I've seen very little of the best under this charter that marginalizes residents' right to speak without even a 2-minute line item comment on an issue that is extremely important, like the Bogie issue. In addition, residents in the past have had no better choice in choosing a mayor when the future mayor is already chosen, apparently, by the past mayor to succeed him for several years. The reason why is that this position cannot be considered desirable if it only pays a lousy $2,000. and the only full-time ruling position by a non-resident city manager. He's delegated to run by the charter to run the entire city. No wonder special interests control the city through political donations and favors and free admission to our speech and eats, etc. Ethics, what ethics? Former Commissioner Pat Capello tried to introduce an ethics oath or affirmation that voting commissioners have no rights or interests, personal or business, and she was vociferously opposed by Mayor Razor and Jim Razor, who said that, Mayor Ellison, excuse me, and Jim Razor, who said that it is insulting and implied that an attorney may have a case. Well, a recusal to vote does not require specific reasons why. I may have a problem should be a sufficient reason. What you get what you pay for is a term we all know. If our mayor and commission are paid crap, what do you expect in return, considering special interests could contribute more to a campaign or a favored charity more than any mayor or commissioner is being paid? In summation, we all know who really runs the city, and it has nothing to do with residents and everything to do with pleasing deep pockets. This is exactly what happened when we were told the landlord who wanted to bring in Buffalo Wild Wings was a generous contributor to charities and deserved to be allowed to bring in yet another bar, ousting our beloved bookstore. With your votes taken for granted, coupled with so little choice of those willing to donate their personal time, aren't the results predictable? I'm sure there are some commissioners here who would agree we could use a new charter and that we could use a strong mayoral system with a full-time, fully paid mayor. I humbly ask this permission to forget that this is Ron Wolf speaking tonight and suggesting that, to look into their hearts if they really care about protecting this city in the future. Is this the commission that it is under state law that if this is to be done, it needs to be done by this commission before the next term. In other words, if you're to change the charter and bring in a full-time mayor. Parking structures, I'm for them. I think to promote our downtown and farmers market and hopefully a new park, and not just an art speech in each staging area, whose, I said before, whose rendering is always shown as part of the fallaciously named Central Park development. We could use a two-story structure on the proposed police department grounds to further free up surface parking. We could offer free surface parking under the operating hours of our farmers market on Saturday. We already have free parking on Sunday. Or we could switch the busy day to Sunday. And extend the hours extend farmers market a couple of hours for those going to church, because why? Because there's free parking on Sunday in the entire CBD. Has anyone ever thought of that?
Mr. Wolf, I'm going to have you finish, sir.
I'll try to give you some more ideas from my ideas about what to do with these structures and how they will benefit our city in the future. I'm partly on your side as far as vertical parking. Our city is growing. We need vertical parking, period.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
And by the way, what about some golf carts on the farmers market so we can move seniors around to the parking structures? What about thinking about that?
Good idea, Mr. Wolf.
Mr. Mayor, if
Mr.
I could just quickly say, I think it's pretty rare when former Commissioner Razor, former Commissioner Andrzejczyk, and Mr. Ron Wolf would agree on any topic, all three of them. But Mr. Wolf, I suggest you pursue, well, you had a litany of things there, but regarding the charter, we have a charter review committee that would be appropriate for you. So I urge you to look into attending those meetings.
All right. Who's next? Yes.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Wallace Anderson, 404 Mount Vernon Boulevard. I spoke at the previous commission meeting about two concerns: the need for data-driven decision-making when considering major projects to be funded by citizens' tax dollars, and briefly at the end about my dismay that Royal Oak would not provide free space, and cable TV for a League of Women Voters candidate forum this fall. When I began to talk about the League, I was interrupted almost immediately. Mr. Johnson was shaking his head and saying they never asked. At least one commissioner was shaking his head strongly as well. Now, I had received my information from the League the prior week via email, but I did not have it with me, and you totally flummoxed me by interrupting. I was totally put off my stride, and as a result, the city manager and commissioners appeared to disbelieve the accuracy of my information. Here is the full text of the email message I received August 24th about the city's position on providing space, free space for a candidate forum. And Judy's apparently here. I didn't know that. I'm giving you a message from Judy Bateman, the co-director of voter service for the League of Women Voters, Oakland area. And here's the quote. Our mission is an educated electorate. To that end, we host nonpartisan candidate forums in all cities in Oakland County. We are welcome to use the city facilities free of charge in Berkeley, Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham, Southfield, Huntington Woods, Pleasant Ridge, Clawson, Ferndale, Bloomfield Township, West Bloomfield, and many others. They provide the room and the cable coverage for free. We are available to service the Royal Oak community, but have found several obstacles in place that make it difficult. We have done forums at the City Hall and the library and would like to be able to do it again this year. We need a room and some form of cable or live streaming for no charge. We are volunteers and do not have funds for candidate forums. That's the end of my quotation. Item 12 on tonight's agenda addresses my complaints specifically. Clearly, I was correct in my information, and apparently neither Mr. Johnson nor some members of the commission were familiar with this exclusionary city policy. I want to express my gratitude for the work of Carol Schwanger and Judy Davids on the resolution to facilitate voter education in Royal Oak. I do hope you will approve this resolution, and it would be nice to move it up on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. All right, who's next? Yes, sir. In the back. No, in the gray shirt with the horizontal stripe.
That gentleman.
Mr. Clyde Esprit, otherwise known as.
Mayor and Commissioners, Clyde Esbury, 4135 South Fulton Place, and I wake up every day very proud to live in this city. I am here this evening on behalf of Royal Oak Schools Yes. Myself, along with school board member Mary Ann Van Heitzma, are co-chairing the committee that is working towards successfully passing a Royal Oak Schools bond for the November 7th, 2017 election. I'm here this evening to invite all of you, as well as the rest of the Royal Oak community, to a fundraiser this Wednesday, September 13th at 5th Avenue in Royal Oak from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. to help raise funds to support this very worthy cause. If you have any more questions about it, information can be gotten at royaloakschoolsyes.com, or we can be followed on Facebook, also at Royal Oak Schools Yes. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Otherwise, I think any information you need is readily available on the website that we've developed.
Any questions for Mr. Esbury?
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you. Clyde? Is that Deb? I'm sorry, the lighting isn't so terrific. I know I keep complaining about it, but yes, it is Deb Lobring.
Good evening, beloved City Commission and Mayor. I am not a complainer. I am here to advocate for a couple of things. And I have tackled you, almost everyone, individually as well. I recently went to the village and see what was going on there and thinking ahead, you know. And I found out that to get a condo there is approximately 4 years wait. Well, I could certainly be dead in 4 years. I'm sure many other people who go there get that news are probably thinking the same thing. The apartment's a little bit better. It's a 2-year wait. And my good friend Eileen Orlansky spoke to you a little bit about this issue. I've been in Royal Oak, I think about 40 years, and been active in many different areas. And I love the city, and I would really be upset and disheartened if I could not live here. I had the means to purchase a condo in the 2 years ago, but how I purchased it was I went door to door in a place where I wanted to live, because I had a realtor who could not find anything less than $300,000 where I could live in a condo setting. And I did get the condo, and I had actually got 2 calls from individual owners, and another friend got the other one. You can see that it's pretty tough to do that. So what I would like to propose, I guess, is that this be a priority when we think about development. I live off of Rochester Road, and there's a whole gang of, I don't know how many condos, 13 in Rochester, all of which are townhouses and not suitable for seniors. I know that I've heard many times that the idea here is that these developers don't want to do it because they can't make enough money. Well, I think that they will keep saying that unless somebody says, hey, our city wants this, they need this, and if you guys don't want to do it, there's probably somebody else that would like that opportunity and be able to make it a money-making affair. So that being said, I'd like to reiterate what Eileen said about the transportation issue. As we get older, I could fall down tomorrow and wouldn't be able to drive. Somebody'd have to take me somewhere. I could get, any other kind of situation where I wouldn't be able to participate in the city like I have pretty much all my life. I think that some thought should be given to developing a transportation system in the city which would benefit seniors, would benefit all the young people that want to, party downtown, and also the kids that go to school, and especially to the junior high and the high school, as transportation and save on gas and all of that kind of thing. So just wanted to kind of put those things before you this evening, and thank you for all the time and energy and work that I know that you put into everything that you do.
Thank you, Ms. Lobring. Yes, in the back.
Good evening, Kim Gibbs, 3342 Harvard Road. I am up here today to say thank you to the current commission for allowing the forum to take place. Although somebody spoke of there not being cable access, and I just hope that that will be clarified, or that's what I heard. Maybe that wasn't exactly what was said, not what was said, that we didn't have access for the cable. That we didn't have cable access? Maybe I misunderstood. But I'm thankful that we will have an opportunity to have an open forum, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Anybody else this evening? Going once? Going twice? Okay, we're going to close public comment and bring the meeting back up to here. That brings us to the approval of the agenda. Mr. Gillum, you had a couple comments prior to going into this discussion.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 changes that I would request for the agenda tonight. First, I would ask that item number 9C under the consent agenda, the approval of the ice arena management agreement with Suburban Arena Management, be pulled from tonight's agenda, not taken from the consent agenda, but pulled entirely from the agenda. There were some emails and some discussion the end of last week between some members of the staff and the representatives from Suburban, and it appears that there's one of the material terms of the agreement that we thought was nailed down that is not. So we need a little bit more time. We expect to be able to bring that back in a couple weeks, but we would ask that that be pulled from tonight's agenda. Second, I would ask the commission to add an item of 13. It's a matter of pending litigation, Paradiso versus the City of Royal Oak. Just have some very brief discussion and some action I would ask the commission take tonight on that matter.
Okay. Any other requests for the agenda? Commissioner Douglas?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to take item E from the consent agenda and move it down for discussion. It would be, I guess, item 14.
Okay. No? Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Donegan?
Please, if we could move the League of Women Voters item up.
To right before item 10?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I don't know what that would be, 9.2?
Something, yeah.
Okay, we'll let Melanie figure that out. Okay. So, we have a agenda in front of us, which is going to consist of the removal or holdover of item number C in the consent agenda, and also an addition of Paradiso versus the City of Royal Oak, and bringing item number E, the approval of the agreement for professional services for Nowak and Fraus, down to item out of the consent agenda and made as item number 14. And then we also are bringing item number 12, the League of Women Voters Candidate Forums, use of city commission chambers and other facilities, up to the first agenda item after the consent agenda. Is there a motion? We have a motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Douglas. Any discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the motion passes. That brings us to the consent agenda, which consists of claims from September 1st and September 12th, 2017, approval of purchase orders, approval of the 2017-18 winter maintenance agreement with the Road Commission of Oakland County, approval of special event permit, Ultimate Fun Productions, Spectacular 5K Run, and public library request to fill vacancy. So we have a motion by Commissioner Polton. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Marley. Any discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. Okay, that brings us to formally item number 12, which is the League of Women Voters Candidate Forums, use of city commission chambers and other facilities. Mr. Johnson, is this you?
Well, it normally would be, but I see that Ms. Schwanger is in the audience, so maybe she wants to come forward.
At the last meeting, it came to our attention that the League of Women Voters had called City Hall and been refused a space to hold a candidate forum. I know in the past that we had done one. I know that there had been some circumstances that had to be overcome with which to do that. So I set about doing some research, and it turned out that one of the things that was prohibitive for the League of Women Voters was not only the fee, but the insurance requirement, which would obviously be even more costly to them than just the fee. The last time they did it, they actually had sponsorship of the Chamber of Commerce, but it seemed unfair to continually make them go out and seek a sponsor for something that benefits the entire community, which is an electorate that is educated. Can't do better than that, especially for these positions, because they affect everybody directly in your local government. You don't get more at home than your local government. So it seemed like a very important thing to do, to be able to provide that service to the community. And then after doing the research, I was instructed by Don to make it something that could be in perpetuity, so that they did not have to go through seeking approval year after year to hold a candidate forum.
You have any questions for Ms. Schwanger? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We have a question about the farmer's market. Other facilities was included in the document, this being the perfect spot because it does provide for cable access. Anytime we have to go outside of this room to other facilities, it just creates more of an issue, and the quality of the cable broadcast can be compromised if we have to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Otherwise, we love the farmer's market.
Yeah, I see Commissioner Dubuck.
Yeah, I'll move for approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dubak. We have support by Commissioner Perush. Discussion? Commissioner Perush.
As a member of the League of Women Voters, I'm glad to support this motion. I've been a longtime member for a very long time. We won't discuss how far long back that goes. But back in the day, the field of candidates for some of these city elections was enormous. I remember one year back in the 1980s where there were 12 people running for 2 positions on the city commission. And having that many candidates and all of their supporters and so on and so forth in one city commission room was, we just couldn't handle the capacity. That was before cable television covered the candidate rally. So we used the schools, and I know that the schools hosted Royal Oak City candidate rallies for a number of years, just because the size of the field of candidates meant that any city facility that we had was just inadequate in terms of size. So I don't know if that's something that the league has explored or is used in other communities, but I think that might be an option here as well, depending upon what the school policy is these days. The other thing that I would note is that even given the smaller, comparatively, field of candidates this year, if a candidates rally is held here or a forum, this room is going to be packed. And so I'm glad to see that the resolution covers other city facilities like the Meininger Center, which has a much larger meeting room and free parking, as well as the farmers market to host something like this. I understand that the quality of the cable television coverage of it would be compromised a little bit by that. But on the other hand, if it means that more people are actually able to attend in person, because the size of the facility is better suited for that size of an event, then I think it ought to be seriously considered. That ultimately, I think, is up to the league to decide whether or not and how they want to handle that. But it has been an issue in the past, and I can see that also being an issue even perhaps this year with the size of the candidate field we have. So those are the only comments I have. I'm just glad to support this.
I can address your comments if you want. I did reach out to the organizer, and I told her the room capacity was 80, and she assured me that that was going to be more than enough for this year. Really? So she was very happy with this room. Yeah, I did offer her the other facilities this year, but again, she said 80 was, she felt more than sufficient capacity.
Okay.
But I will double check with her before we book the final
Well,
date.
whatever.
Oh, sure.
Commissioner Donegan?
Yes, Commissioner Perush said most of what I wanted to say. I had no idea that we had this policy. That I've been to so many candidate forums in my political life that I'm confident I must have been here at least once. I know I've been in the schools, I've been in every church, I think. I don't even remember where all I've been, but I'm glad to see that we are going to be a participant in this adventure because it's really important. I honestly have been to candidate forums where they would not fit in this room, so I don't know how that'll work, but we'll find out this year, I guess.
Commissioner Dubak?
Yeah, I'm glad this was brought forward. I do want to apologize to Dr. Anderson. When I was shaking my head last week, it was in disbelief that that could be the case, that the city was indeed had denied it, and I knew it hadn't been brought to this table. I think it's an absolute essential civic function, and this is the right space for it. I do think capacity may be a concern, but if this or any of the other city-owned spaces, work for the coordinator, then I think that they should be available annually for this type of event. Is the letter before us just for this year?
No, it's in perpetuity.
Okay.
Good. Commissioner Marley?
Thanks, Mayor. I'm going to vote in favor of this because I believe my time up here, I've been a fierce advocate of increasing the amount of information and opinions available to the public. When I ran 4 years ago for this office, Commissioners Douglas and Polton and I participated in a forum in what we call the New Commons area. I'm not sure what it's referred to as now in the middle school. I am fully supportive of waiving the fees and the insurance policy so we can increase the public access to the opinions of candidates. I do have a little bit of hesitation when it comes to using this particular room, despite the cable facilities available here. And despite the efforts of some people to use this forum every commission meeting to wage a political campaign, I view this as a room of governing, not as a room of campaigning, not as a room of politics. In the same way that members of Congress are prohibited from using floor speeches from the House floor in their campaigns. It's kind of how I view this room. There's a certain sanctity to this room. So I'm a little uneasy about using this particular room, but I am fully supportive of using any city facility that's available. So with a little bit of hesitation just about that one aspect of this, I'll be voting in favor of this.
Commissioner Donegan?
That's why it's so important, thank you. That's why it's so important when we are working on our new city hall building, is have the appropriate facilities for community gathering.
I know, Ms. Bateman, I don't want to call you out, but if you're willing to come up and speak, we'd greatly appreciate it. If not, we understand.
Usually, the city halls that we do it in are adequate. A lot of times, it's only the grandparents and parents of the candidates who show up. I can see that this might be an issue here, if the space, if you feel that this is an election that's going to be there are going to be a lot of people, I'm willing to go somewhere else. In Southfield, we use the library. They provide the cable. Every city we work with provides the cable. I never approached you this year because it's been such a stumbling block in the past, I didn't even want to touch it. It's some people called me, and that's when I spoke about, our problems with the Royal Oak doing it here. We have no problem anywhere in Oakland County. Pleasant Ridge, we do it in their rec center. They're going to have somebody live stream it. They're going to have, I don't even know how to do that, but there's somebody with a camera. I mean, I'll have this anywhere, but we do want to have it cabled or live streamed or some kind of, recording. But I don't know who I speak to here about setting this up.
Well, I think Ms. Schwanger will be your
Oh,
point
she's
of
my
contact.
contact.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll, I'm sensing a very positive decision here.
I am too.
We'll noodle out a few of the details, and you're in very capable, responsible, and I will say urgent hands of Ms. Schwanger. She'll do a great job making sure we move this along and have a successful event.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bates. Any other comments? Questions? Okay, I think I'll add, in my first election, I participated in a League of Women Voters Forum, and I found it a great opportunity. I think the community found it as a very valuable thing as well. I guess, I had been surprised over the last number of years. I thought it was really driven by the candidates, if they wanted to have the forum or not. But we learned a little bit more today about the league's view on how the city of Royal Oak, is a little bit, at least formally, more of an obstacle to do these forums in. And I look forward to taking away those roadblocks. So as the league and candidates in the future for decades and generations to come want to have these forums, this will be hopefully a very smooth, transaction. Commissioner Dubak.
Sorry, Mayor, you just inspired a question. I did want clarity on process. My understanding, and having working and been involved with past campaigns, is that campaigns have to make the request, or do cities often make the request to host a forum? In my past experience, it was a campaign has to reach out to the league.
What we do is we look at the list, so the day after filing, we go through the whole list, and we see where there's a contested election, and then we that's how we do it. Or Berkeley will call us, Bloomfield Hills calls us, Pleasant Ridge will call us, but.
So the cities will reach out to you to have it.
And sometimes they do, if they feel, if we haven't jumped on it right away, they'll say, are you coming here? But we've been very good lately about looking at the list right away and getting on it. So the 2 weeks after the list came out, I've got 8 candidate nights now in Oakland County set up. So. Sometimes, for instance, Bloomfield Hills was 5 for 5. We we didn't, we weren't going to do it. But a candidate called me yesterday. He's a write-in. He filed. I looked at the list today. He's on there. He's legal. Called Bloomfield Hills today, and we're going to set that up. That's how we do it.
Good to know, thank you.
I called the chamber this year to ask them if they would help us with the money, and they didn't call me back, so. I thought, well, you know. So I appreciate that you want us to come and,
Absolutely, yeah.
you know, our mission is an educated electorate. That's all we want to do, is have people have a chance to hear you and your views.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bateman.
Now, the League of Women Voters forums are so great because they're so controlled. There's no grandstanding. There's strict rules. You get, if she says you have a minute, you have a minute. You better make the best of it because that's all the time you're going to have. So I really appreciate all that you do.
We have a special request by former Mayor Ellison.
Can you have the ability to offer some historical perspective to why this was in place?
Yes, sir, you may approach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Being the old guy around here and lived through a lot of these decisions, I remember when this decision came in front of the body. It was the same type of request. League of Women Voters wanted to use this room for the candidate forum, just like they want to do tonight. The composition of the commission was different. I believe we had a different city attorney. I think we may have even had a different city manager at that time. Some of the problems raised were exactly what Mr. Marley said. And some of them raised were, if we offer it to this group, are we going to have to offer it to that group? And it raised some concerns among a lot of commissioners that they felt that this room had the sanctity of being the city commission chambers where business was conducted, and they didn't want to turn it into a chamber where any type of forum could gather, whether it's the League of Women Voters or some other group that felt compelled to use the room because we let the League of Women Voters do it. So that's when the policy was instituted that we weren't going to allow this room to be used. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison. Okay. Commissioner Marley.
I'll just say, when Jim Ellison and I agree on something, it's a strange time in this world.
Well, I think this is one of the things we can all agree on. So I'm glad we got clarification to the issue. I'm glad that the forum is going to take place, although the dates and everything are going to be TBD. But like I said, Ms. Schwanger is very good at what she does, and we'll get the date set out and you know, make sure that we have the right facility to have the right conversation with our community and do the best we can do as stewards of this community to educate our electorate. So if there's no other comments or any other discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. Thank you for your patience, Ms. Bateman. Okay. This brings us to item number 10, the public hearing of assessment, special assessment paving of Delaware Avenue. Mr. Callahan.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This evening is scheduled the public hearing of assessment for the special assessment paving of Delaware from East Kenilworth to East Harrison Avenue. This public hearing is intended for the public to come up and discuss the assessment roll, which was prepared by the city assessor. I'd remind you that the standard resolution 5, which happens after the project is complete, is where the actual time frame of the assessment is set, as well as the interest rate that the city charges on the assessments. So that's not part of this evening's, it certainly can be discussed if someone wanted to bring it up, but that will be discussed in more detail at standard resolution 5. No action is required for the commission to be taken this evening. It's just to hold the public hearing of assessment.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Callahan? No questions for Mr. Callahan? Okay, I'll open up the public hearing. The same rules of public comment apply to the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak tonight? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Dan Winter. I'm here on the first parcel, Mr. Callahan, that's in the upper left corner. You've got it as a Sidwell, but actually your address is 230 East Harrison. Apologize, I didn't get to get into the city manager and speak, or city clerk, excuse me, and inquire on specifics on it, and really just had actually four specific questions. If you've gotten that far, wondering what the actual assessment might be on a linear foot of frontage on East Harrison, if you've calculated that out. And I guess the second question, again, apologize, didn't get to the first meeting or get to the clerk, but just curious of a approximate time frame when work would begin. And then third question, I guess as you sort of answered, I was just curious how the assessments were going to be levied, not particularly interest rate, but just when as far as tax roll year goes. And then I guess last question, number 4, is approaches and curb cuts that are currently there on the property, and just curious how those would be dealt with from I guess, an engineering standpoint on specifically the approach and the curb cut as far as the gutters and the curbing is.
Yeah, we'll, when we bring it back up here, we'll make sure those questions get answered for you, sir. Okay, thank you. Anybody else here to speak tonight at this public hearing? Okay, we're going to close Mr. Wolf?
I'm just going to throw out one question. I'm a bit perplexed, and that question is: was a letter sent to everyone within 500 feet of this proposed paving, so they know about this discussion tonight? And if not, why not? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Anybody else here to speak tonight? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing and bring the meeting back up to the side of the table. Maybe we'll start with some of the questions. Mr. Callahan, I don't know if you took a list here. Do you want me to read them?
The first question was about the assessment roll itself, and I'm not quite sure which property he was referring to because my list lists the tax ID numbers. Okay. But the rate is the front footage of the property multiplied by roughly $88.9 per foot. That's the rate. That's a 50% rate during the millage. Right now, we're giving half off of special assessments. So anybody that has frontage on those properties is getting half the normal rate, which would be approximately $170 some. Second question was, when would the work take place? And if all goes well and we managed to acquire the last piece of property, which we're in talks with the property owner there, sometime next summer. We have yet to survey this property. We have yet to design it up, and that typically takes place over the winter. Hopefully, we'll be all set to go when we have the property. We'll be bidding this out in the spring, so we get a good price. The way the special assessments on road projects go, they typically coincide with a line item on the summer taxes. So as each property gets their summer taxes, it will say special assessment road paving on there, and it'll be an additional cost. So it comes at that time.
Would it come if the work is done this summer, or I'm sorry, next summer, would it come the following summer, or would it be assessed that summer?
Typically comes on the tax bill after the work is done. When the work is done, then we have Standard Resolution 5, which sets the final cost per property and sets the time frame and the interest rate.
Thank you.
And the last one, approaches and curb cuts. We look at what driveways are out there right now to maximize the space. We've got commercial properties. I don't believe we have many residential properties out there. You know, there's limits in the zoning ordinance on how big a commercial or residential property can have an approach, and we see what's going to work best for each property. And if we have concerns, we get with the property owners to find out how they use their properties. Do they have heavy equipment delivered? Do their large delivery vehicles come? Do they need wider approaches? That sort of thing. So we try to customize it for each individual address.
And I think we had one question about notification. Can you walk through how everyone's been notified throughout the
notification? Direct mail goes to each individual tax property ID in the assessment list that the assessors put together. It is posted in the newspaper and is posted on the city website as part of the commission documents. we're under no rule or obligation to notify anybody but those people.
But I can tell you, people did reach out to me, and we had a little, very nice impromptu town hall meeting out in the Kenilworth area, discussing the topic and the paving and everything like that.
Thank you.
Neighborhood turned out, it was really pleasant. Talked about some tough issues, and it went well. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Callahan? Okay, there's no action on this item tonight. Okay, thank you, Mr. Callahan.
You're welcome.
I have so many pencil marks on this agenda now. I believe we're in item number 11, the Normandy Oaks Task Force.
Except 11 is now 12.
11 is now 12. There you go.
This is a little bit out of order because this is presuming that the contract with Nowak and Frous gets approved. But the city commission needs to come to a couple of decisions regarding the Normandy Oaks Task Force and a similar body for dealing with the downtown park. We've had the Normandy Oaks Task Force in place since before the decision was made. I mean, they were actually originally appointed to review the golf course situation and make a recommendation as to whether it should remain a golf course or whether we should do something else with the Normandy property. Originally, there was actually a date for that task force to expire, but when we made the decision to turn it into a park, we also, the commission, decided to have the existing task force go forward and see the project through to the end until it was actually developed. There was some discussion when we approved the proposal from Nowak and Frous over the other proposals to be the architect and engineers for the development of the park as to whether we should expand the task force and include other stakeholders. We're recommending against that just because there are so many other stakeholders, and if you tried to include them all, it would be totally unwieldy. And if you didn't try to include them all, I'm not sure how you draw the line as to who you're going to include and who you're not going to include. And then finally, we're going to be dealing with the downtown park also with, at least through the beginning process, through the public engagement portion with Nowak and Frous as well. It's part of that contract. We need somebody to be the commission's representative, citizen input, with regard to the downtown park. We're suggesting that also be the Normandy Oaks Task Force with two exceptions. One is because we're asking the DDA to finance that portion of that project, the park and the area surrounding it and the interconnections. The DDA discussion that's gone on in that regard has indicated that if they're going to do that, that they want representation on the committee that guides that process. I think it's probably going to actually be DDA Chair Jay Dunstan himself who will be the one who wants to sit on that. We also suggesting that there be one more appointee made by the mayor, and that's just strictly to keep it at an odd number.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? Commissioner Dubak.
So, could you remind us all what the current makeup of the Normandy Oaks Task Force is done?
It's a 5-member committee. There are 2 city commissioners, 2 members of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and 1 person who is a member of both.
I would expect that the development of the downtown park would be an exceptionally new, like a large body of work to add on to this committee. I'm a little concerned about capacity, both for our resident volunteers and the commission representatives. Are we expecting that the business for both parks, and I think this was Mr. Rapinski raised it, would be conducted at a single meeting?
I would expect it to operate pretty much the same way that we do the retirement board and the retiree healthcare board. And yes, they meet back to back. It's the same membership. It is conducted as 2 separate meetings, but it's the same same membership and largely the same professionals, though not entirely. We have different investment advisor for the two boards in that case. But in this case, it's going to be the same professionals.
I understand the purpose of the natural synergy if we're working with the same consulting firm. I'm concerned that it seems like a lot to ask, and then also a substantial amount of power in this relatively small volunteer board. I'm curious if we need to consider that being the downtown task force, park task force being separate.
Thank you.
Just out of concern for those involved and the amount of time and the intensity of the labor.
Commissioner Perush?
I would add to that, the comparison to the retirement boards is accurate in that you have the same people on both the retirement board for the pension system as well as the board for the healthcare system, which we recently went out and bonded for. The difference, though, between the two workloads between those committees and what these people are going to be involved with in terms of developing plans for the two parks is extraordinarily different. The retirement board's meetings, for the most part, last each perhaps 45 minutes to an hour. They meet back to back on one day per month. There is no work involved whatsoever in between the meetings, except for people like me who know nothing about finance, who try to do some personal education about what on earth these people are talking about when we actually get into a meeting. But if you're up to speed as to how retirement investments happen and why they happen the way they do, it pretty much is like a 2-hour block of time in any given month. On the other hand, if you're going to have the same people on these task forces working on both developing plans, including all the public education and all of the homework and everything else that's going to be involved, community meetings with both Normandy Oaks and the downtown park simultaneously, that's going to be a tremendous amount of work for the same group of people. And I really think that it would be unwieldy. I know that by splitting the groups into two different groups of people puts additional burdens on the staff in terms of being able to handle two separate meetings and two different groups of people and everything else that goes along with that. I know that is going to be a significant issue. But on the other hand, I'm not so sure that you could effectively have the same group of people work efficiently for both the downtown park and the Normandy Oaks Park if you make them to be the same group. It's going to be a heck of a lot of work. In a concentrated period of time. It's not going to go on for years and years, hopefully. But on the same token, if you want these projects to move forward efficiently and effectively, and you actually want to see some development happen, especially at Normandy Oaks, sooner rather than later, you're going to want to have groups that can effectively get together and efficiently work and get the homework done that they're going to need to get done. And I have real questions as to whether or not the same group of 5 or 6 people are going to be, or 7 people in the course of the downtown one, is going to be able to make it work. I just have real concerns in that regard.
Commissioner Donegan?
Thank you. I will add on to both of those comments. I think that you mentioned it's not just a meeting that you have to go to. I would expect the task force members to go to all the public engagement sessions, perhaps even have their own, go and talk to people outside of the meeting. It's not just a meeting. I also think it would be better, it won't be on the commission then, but to have, if there's 2 commissioners on the Normandy Oaks Task Force Commission, I think there should be another 2 commissioners that are adding their expertise and their enthusiasm to this project. And I'm envisioning these back-to-back meetings, and by the time you get through, say, an hour or 2-hour meeting of the Normandy Oaks Task Force meeting, and then you have to say, oh no, now we have to stay for the Central Park meeting. Like, boy, I really wish I could go home because it's been 2 hours already. So I expect the people that are involved in each one of these task forces to put all kinds of enthusiasm and everything they have into these meetings. And I just think it would be better to have more people involved who can spend a lot of time doing it.
I don't know. Commissioner Douglas, I think, had her hand up first.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking at the work plan that NOAC and Frous has put in front of us. I don't know that the Normandy Oaks process is going to be that time-consuming for our task force. As Mr. Rapinski pointed out, we've had substantial public comment through the Parks Master Plan process. We've had at least one or maybe two extensive town hall meetings about Normandy Oaks. We have the results of the Cobalt survey that is done every year that informs our decisions. And in fact, Nowak and Frous has proposed really a single community engagement event that they would use to help make final decisions about the nature of the park. And I think once those decisions are made, I see this kind of winding up in staff's hands for, a lot of engineering type decision making that the committee wouldn't really be involved in. I definitely agree that the Central Park development process will be time consuming, but I think Normandy Oaks will tail off as that ramps up. So I don't oppose the idea of different committees, but I'm not sure the work is going to be as onerous as we may think.
Commissioner Marley?
So I tend to agree that these two task forces should be separate. Not to say that Commissioner Douglas can't serve on both of them if she so chooses, but I think the two parks are very different types of parks and deserve their own expertise for each one. One is an urban park in our downtown, and one is I can't call it a neighborhood park, a community park in 48073 in the north end of the city. These are two major and transformative projects, one going on in each half of the city, and I think the needs of both of them, the end results of both of them are going to be vastly, vastly different. And I think Commissioner Donegan's the only landscape architect up here, but I don't think I know. But she can certainly talk better than I can about the different amenities that go into those two different very types of parks. So again, Commissioner Douglas, not to say you can't serve on both if you don't want to, but I think we need to draw in a different kinds of voices for each of the parks. So I'm supportive of the idea of two separate bodies.
Commissioner Polden?
Yes, Don, your recommendation is for this task force and just add a couple additional members. I mean, now that you've heard this discussion, I mean, does this sway your recommendation as to what it is tonight? Or, I mean, it does make some sense that there could be some time committed rather than, because I do sit on the pension board and we're there, but I mean, I think I can do it, the work, but I mean, do you think there's going to be that much more engagement and with your conversations with Novak and Frous? I mean, is it going to be some overwhelming monumental task that we're taking on, or is it, because I think we have competent members, we've made the right decision so far, I think we can go forward and do the same thing.
The only thing that's a critical issue is that you move forward and put somebody, whether it be the same members or a different group of people. You know, if we're going to proceed and start designing the downtown park, we're going to need people who are working with the contractor to do so. I made a suggestion based on what I think is reasonable and would be relatively quick and easy to do. It will be less burdensome to the consultant and less burdensome to the administration to not have a separate body and separate meetings. But we can deal with it however you wish.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Perush?
Perhaps the thing to do is to ask the existing task force members if they think that they individually could handle another set of tasks for the other park. And if they can, then I guess I would be comfortable saying, okay, then you can be on both. If Commissioner Douglas or any of the other members of the existing task force feel that yes, despite the fact that this is going to be more work for another park, but we think we're up to it, we don't mind serving on both, then they serve on both. But if there's a member who says, look, I am maxed out with what I've got on my plate right now, and I can handle the Normandy Oaks one, but I really don't think I want to take on another one, then say, for instance, that's a Parks and Recreation representative, then perhaps that body says, okay, this person can't do it, but we recommend so-and-so. So perhaps if we leave it up to the individual task force members that exist now as to whether or not they want to take on that additional work. I don't know that we've asked them. And if they say, fine, you know, we can, and we think we can do it right, then they stay on and we appoint them to both. If they say, you know, individually, I can't do it, then perhaps their organization that they came from would suggest someone else. I also agree with the recommendation that we have to put the DDA on the downtown task force. If they're going to be funding this project, they deserve a voice at the table.
So why don't we call Chairman Rapinski up here of the Normandy Oaks Task Force to give us a little bit of his thoughts on it. I think it's a swell idea, Commissioner Perush.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners.
Don't forget your phone.
So, in listening to the comments and concerns of the commission, again, I understand you have tremendous demands on your time. So looking at the commissioners, Commissioner Douglas, Commissioner Donegan, Commissioner Polton, who are serving on the Normandy Oaks Task Force as well, I just, you know, I can't speak for you, and I know you have extreme demands with the other committees and functions that you have to participate in. And I can understand how that could come into your decision. For myself, I'm available and ready to serve on both if you would so choose to have me. I cannot speak for Jill Robinson, who's the other member of the Parks and Rec Board who is on the task force. I think somebody would have to approach her and see how she would feel about that. I do agree with what Commissioner Douglas said, that as we wind down the Normandy Oaks Park project, I totally expect the Central Park project to start to ramp up. So the amount of time where there would be the demand of the bodies, the mutual bodies that would be dealing with both projects from a major decision standpoint, I think would be minimal. At least that's my expectation. I might want to get more input from our consultant from NOAC and Frous and see what they think, but I really believe that what City Manager Johnson suggested is doable, and I can speak for myself that I'm ready to serve.
Thank you, Mr. Rapinski.
Anybody have a question for me? Or? Okay, thank you.
Any comments from the commissioners who happen to sit on the board, or the task force? Maybe I'll just add a couple things to consider as well. I agree. I think we absolutely have to have DDA representation on it. Remember, if we do go down this approach that's presented in front of us, we're going to have essentially 2 extra people on the task force to help out, you know, at-large appointee, as well as a member of the DDA. You know, it's the impact on both the consultant and staff is minimized. You don't have to replicate all the forums. And we can always change it in the future. If the task force says, hey, this is too much work, we're not getting the work product that we want out of it, they can come back to this body and we can split it up once we get a little bit of an experience curve underneath our belt. So for what it's worth, I mean, I think in an ideal world, it would be great to have 2 separate task force working on their own. You got to have the overlap, I think, to some extent, because we're talking about 2 major recreational assets being developed in our community, and there is, even though one is a downtown park and one is a community park, like Commissioner Marley pointed out, there are things that could overlap, and you know, some creative ideas that could be discussed among a singular or at least overlapping group. But you know, there are some downsides of having, you know, separate work groups as well, like we mentioned, and so that's something to balance and to consider. Commissioner Marley?
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you for your comments. I still think that these are 2 very, very different parks, very different types of parks, and you need to approach each one of them with a very different perspective, with a different vision for each one. So bear with me for 1 sec. I'm going to make a motion that, I'll read it. Be it resolved, the City Commission establishes the Downtown Park Task Force, and be it further resolved, the Downtown Park Task Force will consist of 3 members of the City Commission, 2 members of the Parks Rec Senior Advisory Board, a representative of the Downtown Development Authority, and a mayoral appointee.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Marley, supported by Commissioner Dubak. Discussion, Commissioner Marley?
Well, I'll repeat myself again. I think that these are two, just, each of these parks is unique in their own way. You know, we've got one in a downtown, walkable, urban area. The amenities in that park, the park that'll sit on this site, are gonna be very, very different from a 40-acre park, 40-acre community park in the north end of the city. My motion clearly does not prohibit anyone from serving on both of these forces. But I do feel that it's a different kind of mindset when you're approaching a community park than you are when you're approaching an urban park. We wouldn't necessarily put the amenities that we have in Eagle Plaza in Pocket Park in the north end of the city. And we're also, in my mind, I think the Normandy Oaks Task Force has done a spectacular job, and especially thankful for all of the time that the members of the task force have put in, even when you were on that committee, Mayor, back in the day, and our former mayor as well, back in the day. So much time invested in that project, the Normandy Oaks project, but in both of these, we've kind of lacked a certain perspective too. I mean, we had Miss Klein on the original Normandy Oaks Task Force, but she left, and I don't know, I feel like we just need a little more diversity of opinion as we're designing these parks because they're so different. I don't know. That's my opinion. That's my motion. That's all I've got.
Commissioner Dubak?
All right, Commissioner Marley, please repeat the list that you had recommended.
It's essentially changing the portion of the sentence. The Downtown Task Force will consist of 5 members of the Normandy Oaks Task Force. To the Downtown Park Task Force will consist of 3 members of the City Commission, 2 members of the Parks and Rec Senior Advisory Board, and the rest of it stays the same. A member of the DDA and a member and a mayoral appointee.
Is he mean different ones?
I left that purposely vague, so that the commissioner can serve on both. A member of the Parks and Rec and Senior Advisory Board can serve on both.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Douglas.
Could we, I don't know if we need to specify this in the motion or just informally agree that the first people we would ask would be those who are on the Normandy Task Force?
I think I had Commissioner Perush next.
I don't care.
Commissioner Polton?
Yeah, there's no reason for me to change this, this makeup of this body. Just because we made decisions on the Normandy Oaks doesn't mean those same people can't make decisions and get input from other residents regarding the downtown park. So for me, this resolution is appropriate. And who's going to choose the 3 members? I mean, how are we going to do that? So
this body would, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm fine with the resolution.
I'm sorry, for clarification, the resolution on the table or the resolution?
No, the resolution that's been presented by our city manager.
Mr. Mayor. I think one of my primary concerns is making sure that we're getting, as Commissioner Marley said, more voices to the table. I think the Normandy Oaks Task Force was the Normandy Oaks Task Force, and now we're dramatically expanding its mission when what we have here is an opportunity to actually engage even more people in another very, very important city decision. I think that would be a missed opportunity if we just expand the scope of a task force that did have a very, very specific reason for being, and instead of taking the opportunity to tap into more of our talent in the city. The reason I was asking about the makeup Commissioner Marley recommended is because I would like to see a couple more appointees as residents. So if we had DDA, Commission, Parks and Rec represented, and then maybe 3 residents, that would, I think that would be bringing more voices to the table on what's ultimately a really, really important decision. Right now, as it stands, 1 DDA, 3 commissioners, right?
I would accept that as a friendly amendment.
Well, technically, I'd have to amend it, right?
No, because it's not, I don't think anybody's
Weren't you the supporter?
supported the motion.
I am the supporter.
Can I change my motion as Mr. Gillum? Can I amend my motion as just voiced by Commissioner Dubak?
Or do we have to vote on this one?
Technically, you should vote on the first one and then bring a second.
Can I withdraw my motion?
You can withdraw your motion, yes.
Commissioner Marley?
Mr. Mayor, I withdraw my previous motion and move that we do what Commissioner Dubak just said. Is that list?
So, for the record, can you repeat what Commissioner Dubak just said?
Be it resolved, the City Commission establishes the Downtown Park Task Force, and be it further resolved, the Downtown Park Task Force will consist of 3 members of the City Commission, 2 members of the Parks and Rec and Senior Advisory Board, a representative of the Downtown Development Authority, and 3 mayoral appointees.
3? 4 by Commissioner Dubak.
Not a number.
Discussion? Okay.
It's 9. That's 9. I added.
Commissioner Dubak.
I think I've laid out my reasons. I think this is, I wouldn't preclude any of, the existing members from stepping up. I wouldn't necessarily give them priority either. I suppose if more than 3 commissioners were interested, then we'd have to have a motion. We'd have to vote on who's appointed anyway, as we do appointments, so. But I think it's important that we, are including more people in such a vital decision.
From the Parks and Rec perspective, I imagine they are gonna have to, at their next meeting, find their 2 representatives to serve on this the way it's worded. Is that the intent as well? That they'll have to draft members from their board, albeit the same members, different members, whatever it may be?
Correct,
Okay,
Mayor.
that's the intent
I know they
behind
have
your
at
motion.
least 1 new appointee to that board who might be very interested. 2 new appointees to the board who might be very interested in participating.
And we're keeping the composition of the Normandy Oaks Task Force the same with the 5 individuals.
This motion has nothing to do with the Normandy Oaks Task Force.
I'm just making that a point. You're gonna have a 5-person task force and a 9-person task force. Okay. Any other discussion? Commissioner Donegan?
No, I just wanted to say that I really do believe in, this is such a big deal, this downtown park. It's never been done before, that bringing in more people is better. Even if it's a little unwieldy, I just think it's a better idea.
Okay. Commissioner Marley?
Sorry, Mayor. I'll just reiterate that. Both of these parks, the one in 48067 and the one in 48073, they are once-in-a-generation transformative opportunities. And I think it behooves us to include as many voices at the table as possible. Now, obviously, any resident can come and speak at the meetings during public comment and can participate in the public outreach efforts that Novak and Fraus will be doing, but we'll find out more about that if we approve their contract next. But these are just such huge projects that I feel that we need as many voices at the table as possible.
Okay. Just a quick matter of order, Mr. Johnson. So when will we need to have these appointees clarified for the purposes of, meeting the timelines? I imagine, obviously, the downtown park task force is not extremely urgent, so we have a couple meetings to construct or take applications or,
That's true.
Okay, so it's not like we have, right after this motion, we don't have to determine who the commission members may, the Parks and Rec Committee has time according
Yes.
to your timeline, okay?
Yes.
All right.
We're a couple of years away from from doing anything with the downtown park.
But the public engagement is really important, and we want to start that as early as possible, that this isn't going to delay our proposed public engagement process.
Well, that's the Normandy Oaks portion of it.
Okay.
It may delay the downtown park portion a little bit.
So we got more buffer in that timeline?
Yes.
Okay. All right, unless Commissioner Marley has anything more to say, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
No?
Okay, the motion passes. All right, this brings us to item number, I guess this would be 14, right? Paradiso versus the City of Royal Oak.
Mayor Fournier and City Commissioners, this is a matter that's pending in Oakland County Circuit Court. Per normal procedures out there, we're at a point where Insurance Council needs to take certain action in regards to a case evaluation and recommendation. Given that this is pending litigation, we're not at liberty to discuss publicly the action that, or the options that council has in regards to the case evaluation recommendation. But at the same time, they do need direction. I would just ask the City Commission to authorize Ms. Battersby from Johnson, Rosati, Schultz, and Japik to proceed as we discussed in closed session this evening.
Okay, is there a motion? We have a motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Polton. Discussion? All right, with none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, this brings us to item number E from the consent agenda, which is approval of agreement for professional services, Nowak and Frost Engineers, landscape architecture, engineering and construction at Normandy Oaks and downtown Royal Oak Parks. Commissioner Douglas.
Thank you, Mayor. My comments will concern public engagement in this process. I have absolutely no issue with any of the engineering work that is proposed here. I share Mr. Rapinski's passion for public engagement and public input into these processes. And as he correctly pointed out, we've spent a lot of time already getting feedback about Normandy Oaks through the public meetings that we had. We've conducted a study, the research to develop a parks master plan. So we've had a lot of voices involved there. In both cases here, both in community engagement for Normandy Oaks and community engagement for the downtown Central Park, Nowak and Frost proposes to use a pretty traditional form of community engagement tool, which is a variously referred to as an open house or a public forum or a charrette. And basically what happens is, at least as they propose for Normandy Oaks, they develop ideas and plans, and then the public will come in from like 3 to 8 p.m. over the course of a day, look at the images, offer feedback, vote on things, maybe sketch things. And this is a very generally accepted, very useful tool, and I do feel that it's an appropriate one to use in this case. However, they've listed 3 methods of how they will notify people of this meeting. They say that meeting times and dates will be advertised on the city website and in the local paper. They will request an interview with the local press to stimulate interest, and they will provide links to background information on the city's website. I don't want to think that because that's what's written in their proposal is all they're going to do. I would want to add a requirement here that they develop a list of community groups and schools and constituent organizations and reach out to them through email, through personal contact, to make sure that people know about it. We so often hear that the city doesn't communicate well. And I would like to think that we would have people of all ages and backgrounds, not just the usual suspects who show up for public comment, but really stimulate interest in some of those peripheral groups, especially young people, to make sure that their voices are heard. So I would add that as a description of how they are going to communicate about the Normandy Oaks Public Engagement Workshop. They propose a pretty similar project in terms of seeking input on the Central Park, and I absolutely agree with everyone here at the table who said, particularly Commissioner Marley, this is such a unique process not just for Royal Oak, but for cities across Michigan, that we want to make sure that we even more vigorously bring people into the discussion process. And Nowak and Frous said that, and they offered three options in addition to, I'm sorry, four options in addition to their baseline of 2 community engagement events. One is using the website or the internet to collect information, to let people see things, storyboarding, let people respond. I think we need that web-based interface as part of our engagement for the Central Park. They offered, I think this is a great idea, what they call Picture This, where they have users send photos of what they like best, and they share those photos through social media. I think that's an excellent tool. And they also suggested as an option doing an on-site exhibit and engagement during a major public event or festival. That's a great idea, especially with the Central Park, where we expect that it will be used by more than just our residents, but by the public. So doing something at some public event would let us make sure that we get input from people who come to our city to visit and would want to use this park. I'm assuming that the Nowak and Frous has cost estimates for these components, that it's not going to be a time-consuming or delaying or onerous task for them to include that cost estimate in with their proposal. And I don't think out of a, $260,000, $270,000 budget for this project, it's going to be a prohibitive cost compared to the overall cost of the project. So I would like to see us add those three items in with what they offered as their baseline community engagement for the Central Park.
Commissioner Marley.
If this contract is approved tonight, this is appropriate for Mr. Russell probably, when can we expect community engagement efforts to begin?
After I have a conference call with Mr. Huda from Nowak and Frous on Thursday, we'll probably reach out to the Normandy Task Force and lay out the game plan for them and see what, start playing calendar games, but I assume during the month of October.
Excellent.
I also want to point out that the RFP in the response was broken down into two cost factors. One was for Normandy Oaks, and one was for the community engagement for the Central Park. So it was two separate projects within one RFP, and that the Central Park, they are only doing the community engagement portion. There's no design work figured into that or anything like that beyond the community engagement.
Any questions for Mr. Rassel or any discussion?
No, I agree. The more community engagement, the better. There's all different kinds of tools. You know, there's some that have been used forever and they're just sort of that. I like tools that are innovative and interesting, that people are actually drawn to. Going to an open house to look at boards is really not it, as far as I'm concerned. So I want people to actually believe that they have had actual input into their into the project that they're paying for in this city. And so it needs to be meaningful. And if that helps make it meaningful, I'm open for that and anything else that, you know, really speaks to the community. It's hard to get young people to go to anything. So to get them to go to something that's boring is not going to do it. So I support whatever you talked about. I assume that the unit prices can be worked out somehow, Mr. Rassel?
They provided the cost estimates and hourly rates were all provided in the RFP.
Thank you.
Commissioner Douglas.
So just to be clear, the three optional components I'd like to see included are, as labeled in the proposal, the user opinion survey, picture this an on-site exhibit and engagement for the Central Park.
So I guess my question would be is how does that, well, as my computer freezes, is that going to be part of the hourly rate?
That would
in the
probably,
contract?
well, there is a price for the community engagement laid out for the Central Park and that portion of the proposal. So I believe it was laid out for one engagement kind of thing, and if we do multiple, they can give us a cost estimate to do the other two.
We have a contract here in front of us
For both.
tonight that just has the one. It doesn't include what Commissioner Douglas is speaking of.
The RFP was included, RFP response for both projects, and the response to the RFP were included as way of reference in the agreement.
Commissioner Perush.
So in other words, if the three items that Commissioner Douglas outlined mean that's just more additional hours that the contractor has to spend on those items in addition to what's they've already offered, they'll just bill more hourly time?
Though what we'll do is, they have to do one of those three. All right, if we want to do all three, they'll give us a cost estimate for doing the other two options.
And then do we have to amend this contract to include
We
those?
should not have to amend this contract because the hourly rates are there. It's just that we'll ask them when the task force that you're creating tonight, before we commit to doing the other two, that task force will make a decision whether we want to invest that additional money.
Okay. Okay.
So maybe we can hear from WROK and Frost.
Thank you very much. Jeff Wood, great discussion tonight, a lot of great points. Obviously, we understand the critical nature of these projects and how sensitive they are to the community as a whole. We are very committed, and I think we brought that up in our presentation to the task force, to the entire community engagement process. And I think what's difficult tonight is to try to define what that process really needs to be. Certainly in our proposal, we've laid out a plan which I think goes a long way to address those concerns, but we still have not yet had the opportunity to really sit down with task force members, people of the community, people that are the stakeholders here to help us define that process. And I think we need to have that additional input as we go forward so that we're not leaving any stones unturned in this process. So I think the bones of everything are in the RFP as we submitted our response. The agreement that's been put into place, I think, is appropriate, and we are anxious to get started with this process and meet with folks and define what that community engagement process needs to be in total. I think I'll say 80% of it is probably in our proposal. That last 20%, we need to define it a little further, to make sure we're hitting all the right groups and we're meeting people where they need to be met. Some of the things that came up at the task force meeting is that, senior citizens, as an example, they just aren't able to get to some of the events that might be going on. So how do we reach those? I don't think our proposal necessarily addresses that, quite honestly. So what we want to do is, look for those opportunities, and how do we do that, and seek all of your opinion and input to make sure that we're reaching all of those groups. As I said, we got one shot at this. This is a tremendous asset to the community, and I think overall that's really the appropriate, in my opinion anyway, the appropriate way to move forward is let's get the task force in place. Let's sit down and meet, and let's go through the RFP item by item, and let's define what that process is. We've already worked on that. We've got some really good ideas that I think meets a lot of the objectives, and we want to bring those to that table and have that discussion so that we can move this project forward for you.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Marley.
Does Commissioner Douglas have a motion she would like to make?
So I'm not sure if we we're going to approve the budget as submitted, knowing that we can add components on an hourly rate? I mean, how do we, how far over can a contract go without triggering commission action?
My suggestion is, if we move forward with the way the contract is written right now, we can proceed. And then during the task force discussions, we can determine and define the last additional elements of what that community engagement is gonna look like. And we can make those adjustments. You know, NORAC and Frost will have the opportunity to quote that, and then come back to this body for approval, either through the hourly rate or, you know, some sort of mechanism there. I don't know that, I mean, to hold the entire contract up because we want to add to it later, I think we have that privilege to add on to it later.
Okay.
And we'll be more knowledgeable later what those amounts are going to be based on the discussion that the task forces will have with the consultant. That's just my thought. I don't know. Agreement, disagreement?
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right, then I would like to move the approval of the contract as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Douglas. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Perush. Discussion? I guess the only thing I'll add is, you know, we have the highest expectations to provide the very best recreation for the downtown park and for the Normandy Oaks land. And I think the more public engagement we have, the better these recreational opportunities will be. And Commissioner
I
Donovan.
hate to add, it's about the downtown park. I was distracted by the Normandy Oaks part of it. But, so my question is about the timing of the public engagement for the Central Park. We did have a comment just by Don Johnson, just the city manager, just a couple of minutes ago, that nothing's gonna happen with the Central Park, downtown park for 2 years. And I don't think that means that we're not gonna do public engagement before 2 years, correct?
No.
That means there'll be no construction.
Right, but we're gonna start public engagement for the downtown park ASAP or as soon as we can.
Yeah, we need times to do drawings and
Exactly.
go through complexities.
Okay.
And, yeah. But we didn't have to make that decision tonight. We
Yeah.
got at least maybe
I just wanna make that clear.
another meeting to figure out who we're gonna put on that board.
You can get the last word now.
Marie Donegan is great. All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. I believe this brings us to the end of our business tonight, so as long as there is no other business for the benefit of the city of Royal Oak, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Marley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hereby declare the people's business has concluded this evening, and I move that we adjourn this austere body.
We have a very well-articulated motion made by Commissioner Marley. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Perush. Any discussion? With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We are adjourned.